She tried to forget that night, but I remember every moment, every look, every pause between us. The night felt heavy as he stepped onto the porch, the subtle scent of autumn leaves mingling with the faint aroma of her perfume lingering in the air. The house was quiet, bathed in the soft, warm glow of the porch light that cast gentle shadows over the pale walls. Inside, she sat by the window, wrapped in a deep navy cardigan, her long black hair falling over her shoulders, catching the light with each subtle movement. She seemed small, almost fragile, yet radiated a quiet strength that commanded attention even in silence. He hesitated at the door, the familiar weight of his feelings pressing against him. 22, unsteady, but deeply observant, he noticed everything: the subtle tremor in her hands as she held a mug of tea, the slight curve of her lips that hinted at a memory she tried to bury, the way her eyes avoided his for a moment before flicking toward him with careful restraint. The air between them carried a tension he couldn't ignore. Words were secondary to the quiet language of proximity, the brush of her knee as she shifted in her seat, the delicate exhale as she tried to focus on her tea, the unspoken hesitation lingering in the space they shared. He could feel it, the silent pull of something unacknowledged but undeniable. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful, almost tentative, testing the waters of a night that seemed to hang suspended in memory and regret. She responded with measured politeness, her tone smooth but guarded. Every small gesture, hand passing the sugar, a fleeting touch on the arm, carried an intimate weight, a reminder of the closeness they once allowed themselves and perhaps wished to reclaim or escape from. He realized then that this night, unremarkable to anyone else, held immense significance. Each glance, each hesitation, every fraction of a second was imbued with meaning. He remembered things she wanted to forget, the way her fingers brushed against his, the way her laughter once held him spellbound, the fleeting warmth of a shoulder pressed against his. And yet, she seemed determined to bury it, to keep it in the shadow of the past. As the evening stretched on, he remained close yet careful, aware of her unspoken boundaries, feeling the tension between longing and restraint. He understood her desire to forget, but he also knew that some moments, some connections, refused to be silenced. Tonight, he would witness her memory, her presence, the quiet vulnerability behind her confident exterior, and he would remember every detail. The room hummed with unspoken emotion, bright and vivid, holding both tension and warmth. He could sense that the night was fragile, poised on the edge of revelation or retreat. And as he watched her, the woman who had captured his attention in ways no one else could, he felt the unmistakable truth. Some nights are unforgettable, even if one of you wishes they were. The evening carried a tension that felt almost physical. They sat across from each other at the small dining table, the glow from the overhead light warm and soft, casting gentle highlights on her long black hair. She looked composed, serene, yet every subtle twitch, a trembling hand, a sigh barely audible, betrayed the thoughts she tried to contain. He noticed everything. Her dark brown eyes flicked toward him, quickly darting away. Her curvy figure, relaxed on the chair, shifted slightly as if bracing for something she didn't want to feel. She wore a soft gray sweater and a flowing skirt, the fabric catching the light as she moved, adding an air of elegance to her restrained posture. Her skin, lightly tanned with subtle freckles, glowed in the soft lighting. He tried to start a casual conversation, but the words stumbled and fell short. The air between them was heavy with unsaid confessions, memories she wanted to forget, and he could not. A simple brush of her fingers against his as she passed the sugar sent a jolt through him. The smallest contact became charged, a language all their own. Time seemed suspended. Their conversation circled around mundane topics, books, the weather, recent events, but each sentence carried weight, hinting at emotions neither could yet voice. Every glance, every pause, every faint smile was a revelation. She was holding herself back, and he was painfully aware of the barriers she had built around her heart. He leaned slightly closer, testing the limits of her comfort, and noticed the tiniest shift, her shoulder relaxing, her eyes softening for a fraction of a second. That fleeting moment told him more than words ever could. She wanted to maintain control, to protect herself from revisiting the past, but she couldn't hide the quiet pull she felt toward him. The subtle tension, the blend of longing, fear, and tenderness, grew with every minute. He realized that this silent confession, this acknowledgement of what they both felt but could not yet speak, was the heartbeat of the evening. Every subtle gesture, the lift of her teacup, the way her hair fell across her face, the slight curve of her lips, was a whisper of desire restrained by circumstance and memory. By the end of the night, he sat closer than before, feeling the warmth radiating from her, sensing her vulnerability beneath the confident exterior. The room, bright and intimate, became a cocoon for the emotions that words could not capture. They had both confessed silently, each touch and glance a testament to the unspoken truth, that one night could alter the course of hearts, even if she tried to forget. She stood by the window, hands resting on the sill, gazing out at the suburban street bathed in warm, golden evening light. He noticed the slight furrow in her brow, the gentle pursing of her lips, and the way her dark brown eyes flicked toward him before quickly averting. The tension in the room was palpable, charged with anticipation and the weight of unspoken emotion. He sat nearby, careful not to intrude, yet drawn to her like a moth to a soft, steady flame. Her long black hair shimmered in the light, and the subtle curve of her figure beneath the teal blouse and black pants exuded elegance and quiet confidence. The contrast between her composure and the small tremors of vulnerability fascinated him. Words were unnecessary in that moment. Every subtle movement, the way she shifted her weight, crossed her arms, adjusted the cardigan over her shoulders, spoke volumes. He felt the hesitation in her energy, the delicate balance between wanting to reach out and holding herself back. He wanted to speak, to break the fragile bubble of restraint, yet every syllable felt like it could shatter the moment. Instead, he let silence do the talking, letting his presence convey care and understanding. She seemed aware of his gaze, aware of his unspoken empathy, and the smallest smile tugged at the corners of her lips, softening the tension. The evening felt like it was on the edge of a precipice. One step forward could bring them closer, one misstep could widen the distance. Every glance was a negotiation, every pause a silent plea. He noticed the faint freckles along her cheeks, the soft lines at the corners of her eyes, and the graceful curve of her neck as she tilted her head slightly. These small details, combined with the warmth of the brightly lit room, made the moment feel intimate and fragile. Eventually, she turned fully toward him, eyes meeting his with a flicker of recognition and hesitance intertwined. That fleeting connection, unspoken yet undeniable, confirmed what he already knew: the night had shifted. The air between them was charged, ready to carry them forward, but only if they dared to take the next step. He found himself standing behind her in the bright bedroom, the sunlight pouring through sheer curtains, illuminating the soft blush of her sweater. She leaned slightly forward, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. The motion was unconscious, graceful, and intimate. He reached out slowly, letting his fingers hover near her hair before gently tucking it behind her ear. The warmth of her skin, the subtle tremor in her hands, and the faint exhale she released made him acutely aware of the intimacy of the gesture. She didn't pull away, though her eyes softened with vulnerability. Every detail of the room contributed to the moment, the light curtains casting gentle patterns on the floor, the soft rustle of fabric, the subtle scent of her perfume mingling with fresh morning air. His presence was quiet but steady, a reassurance she didn't realize she craved. They moved together to the small study, a casual exchange of a book turning into a delicate ritual of connection. She accepted the book, fingers brushing his, a silent acknowledgement of trust and affection. He noted the curve of her fingers, the delicate freckle patterns, the graceful posture that spoke of both elegance and unspoken tension. For the first time that day, he sensed her walls lowering just slightly. The bright room, filled with sunlight, reflected the warmth growing between them, a gentle flame that was quiet but impossible to ignore. He understood that this small, gentle touch could carry more meaning than any conversation. They strolled side by side in the suburban park, bright sunlight casting long, cheerful shadows across the path. He noticed how she adjusted her soft green cardigan against the mild breeze, the dark brown eyes catching the sun, reflecting a mix of contemplation and quiet amusement. The gentle movement of her long black hair in the sunlight, the subtle sway of her curvy figure, and the soft freckle patterns on her lightly tanned skin made the walk feel almost cinematic. Every casual brush of their arms, every shared glance, communicated volumes of emotion. They talked, laughed softly, and occasionally fell into comfortable silence. Each pause was charged with the unspoken acknowledgement of the night before, a shared secret carried in their eyes. The bright environment reflected the warmth of their connection, the optimism of a bond cautiously growing stronger. On a suburban park bench, he sat next to her, close enough to feel the warmth of her presence, yet careful to respect the delicate boundaries. Her long black hair shone in the sunlight, dark brown eyes flicking toward him with a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. She wore a soft lavender sweater and black pants, her lightly tanned skin glowing in the bright afternoon light. They talked quietly, sharing small truths and memories, their hands occasionally brushing. He noticed her subtle smile lines, the gentle curve of her lips, the soft exhale that betrayed both relief and lingering tension. The park's bright, cheerful environment amplified the intimacy of their proximity. He reached out instinctively to brush a stray hair from her face. The simple gesture was charged with unspoken meaning, comfort, longing, and trust intertwining in the warm daylight. They held the moment, letting silence speak where words might falter. Back in her bright living room, the final moments were serene and filled with quiet intimacy. She sat close beside him on the sofa, her long black hair falling gracefully over her shoulders. Her soft pink cardigan contrasted gently with the bright room, highlighting the warmth of her lightly tanned skin, dark brown eyes, and graceful, curvy figure. Their hands almost touched on the coffee table, each subtle movement carrying years of emotion, hesitation, and desire. The sunlight streaming through the windows created a bright, cheerful atmosphere, emphasizing the tenderness of the moment. By the end of the evening, there was understanding, acceptance, and a shared acknowledgement that some nights cannot be forgotten. The emotional tension had resolved into warmth, respect, and connection. Both had remembered, both had felt, and both had grown closer than ever.